Welcome back, everybody, to Ohio's wonderful spring. Yeah, the temperatures dropped here a little bit, so I thought I would head out skiing if I could figure out how to get there. Anyway, before I did, I thought I would stop and talk to you for a minute about something that I find rather important and interesting in life. I started skiing, really it's been part of my family since probably before I was born. My first trips out skiing, I don't remember how old I was, 3 or 4 or something like that it seems like, and I didn't even have my own skis. I remember getting on the ski lift with my grandfather, and he would hold his poles in front of me to make sure I didn't fall off, and I would hang on to those things, and when we got to the top I would run down next to him as he was on his skis, and then he would set me on his skis right in between his feet, and I would ski down there, and he would hang on to me and kind of show me how it went. Well, after a while we started traveling. We'd go to Colorado and we'd ski every winter. And my parents had 3 kids, so what they liked to do when they went on vacation is put us somewhere else so they could go have fun. And so we all took lessons from the time we were very young. And as I got older and older, lessons got harder and harder, and I got better and better at skiing. It became something of my favorite thing to do. As a youngster, I was fearless. It would go off of just about anything. And I have to say, it's a sport that no matter how good I thought I was or got, every year that I went out there and had an instructor, there was something new to learn. Knowledge. Knowledge not easily gained. Lots of crashes, lots of falls, and I remember having a ski instructor tell me, if you're not falling, you're not learning. That was a challenge because all my life I thought that perfection meant being perfect and not falling, but the desire, the drive to learn more, to gain more knowledge meant literally running into patches that you couldn't handle or doing things at speeds that you couldn't and falling. My senior year in high school, I was out in Colorado with a group from school. My coach, who taught and gave me grades in things like PE and the gymnastics that I was on, asked me to take him up and show him how to ski the moguls on the Black Hills, because that was the stuff that I just loved to do from beginning to end. And so we got on a lift and we went up, and I remember taking him to really one of the just nasty places at the resort we were at. And we got to the top, and I stood next to him, and he looked down the hill and he thought, whew, I don't know if I'm going to survive this one. I said, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. He says, well, are you going to show me what to do? Are you going to show me how to get down this thing? I said, well, yeah, I will. But I got one question for you first. What kind of grade am I getting in the classes you're grading me for? He asked me at that point if there was another way down, and there wasn't out there. Once you're standing at the top of that hill, that is the one that you need to go down. And so we struck a deal there. And I had him follow me down the first patch of moguls, and he came down the way I did. I talked to him about picking patterns and understanding how the fall line worked through the moguls, things that I learned over many, many years and countless crashes. And I tried to impart this wisdom to him, and what we realized was, as long as he was following me, he survived in an upright fashion. But as soon as he struck out on his own, things sort of went haywire, and he wound up in some trouble, and we'd have to go get him out of it. It's an interesting case when you think about it. The quest for knowledge means that you're admitting or acknowledging that you don't know everything. Mark Twain once said, I always felt better, or I won't quote this perfectly, I always thought it would be best to have an answer, and so I was overjoyed to realize that I was able to give an answer. My answer? I don't know. I think sometimes that's probably at least half the battle. When we talk about knowledge like this, it's something that comes through practice, through failure, through success, through practicing again, through thinking, through applying, through investing time, through patience, through humility, as you come down on your back sometimes. I remember teaching Talia to ski, and I started her also at a very young age. She didn't ride on my skis, but I pushed her around a bit first. I remember the first time I put her on a bunny hill, she wanted to go to something big and ski something grand, and I told her, look, if you will ski down this hill by yourself, ride up the little rope tow and come down, and if when I tell you to turn, you turn, then I'll take you on something bigger. It was an awesome moment to watch the next layer of my family, the next generation, pick this up and grab that rope and go up and come down. She turned every time I asked her to turn. The form was beautiful, all was perfect, and as she scooted up to me, I put my arms up in the air to cheer for her and promptly fell over flat on my back. That's not true. I fell over flat on my butt. I realized at that point that I was considerably older than I was when I was going off of ledges and doing different jumps and things like that, and I could not stand up. I had had back surgery a couple months before, but there I was at the bottom of a bunny hill. A guy that would ski anything that was put in front of him out in Colorado was in Ohio, sitting at the bottom of a bunny hill on his butt, unable to get up. It would have been embarrassing had I not spent so much time with instructors that were constantly trying to get me in exactly that position. So what lesson could I learn by sitting on my butt at the bottom of a bunny hill? It's that lesson, no matter how old you get or how good you are, humility is always something worth learning. A famous man once said, the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. His name was Socrates. Those words are good, and unfortunately they're not often enough adopted by people in the concept of knowing God. It's so frequent that when we gain a little bit of knowledge, we think that we have a lot of knowledge. And I'll tell you that as time goes, it seems to me that this problem is not getting better. In fact, the problem of knowledge in general is not getting better, because I've realized recently that when I was young and I wondered something, I had to wonder it until I found the right book to open pages and read enough to learn. Young people of today need only say, hey Siri, wake up Alexa, how you doing Google, give me my answer, and they have their answer now. I wonder though if that's such a blessing, because really when we learn so easy, it seems like we don't value the information that we're gaining. And so anybody walking the streets today could find out just about any little bit, jot or tittle of information they want to about God and pretend or seem or convince themselves that they really know everything that they need to know. Another wise man once said, any fool can know. The point is to understand. His name was Albert Einstein. I'll give you one more of those. I like this quote perhaps the best. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It's the illusion of knowledge. If you can look something up on Google, do you really know it? Or are you just aware of the knowledge without the understanding? And if that's where we're going to in the world today, what's going to happen to our relationships? What's going to happen to our experiences with one another? If everybody truly is today a master of all, jack of all trades, master of none, now that was in my era. Now it's a master of all knowledge. Then what is the value in drawing together with people who might know something that you don't? I've met so many people that know everything in my life, that though I used to be one of those people that thought I knew everything, I've decided it's probably better not to know anything and just to listen to what people say as they go by. It's interesting the things you'll learn when you stop trying to tell everybody what you know. Well, this obviously has to get back to God, and I hope you're with me, because these ideas in coming back to God are so clear when we get our feet down on this concept. A not so famous guy by the name of J.J. Parker once said, there's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God. When you know Him, you have the energy to serve Him. You have the boldness to share Him, and you have the contentment that goes on for a lifetime in Him. truer words perhaps were never spoken, but I'm going to take you to another step on this. A lot of people over the years have claimed to know God. A lot of people have led other people in knowledge, and I think it's very interesting because just like my coach so many years ago was content to follow me down the hill, as long as he only followed me down the hill and took the turns I took, he could do it, as long as he was behind me. But to set out on his own became an impossibility. And so when we think about God and you make this comparison, the reality that knowing about God is a wonderful thing, but it's not a relationship. We're not called to know about Him, we're called to engage with Him. In fact, we're called to become part of His family, to literally become His representation here on earth. I'm going to give you a couple more before I hit the slopes. In the book of John, chapter 17, there's the true Lord's Prayer. You've heard me reference it many times. This is where Christ is in the upper room. It's just before He goes out to the garden. And He stops and He says a prayer, and He prays for the people that are with Him. He prays for the people that are going to believe in Him because of the words of the people that are with Him. And in that prayer, He talks about eternal life. And in that piece, in verse 3, He says, "And eternal life is this, that you know God, the Father, and Jesus Christ whom He sent." Knowledge. Not knowing about, but knowing engagingly. If you turn to Matthew chapter 7, and I know I've shared this one with you before, and I'm just going to leave these two with you because I want you to dwell on this concept of pursuit of knowledge. In Matthew chapter 7, the Sermon on the Mount is closing. It's near the end of that chapter. We talked about this a few weeks ago. He says this, "Not all who call me Lord, Lord will become a part of my eternal kingdom. Many will say, Lord, Lord, in your name we cast out demons, we preached the gospel, we shared with others, we did all these different things. But as I look at them, I'll say, but I never knew you, and so you're not part of my family." It seems to me that knowing about God does us very little good. Probably like looking up on Google quantum theory and reading something about it so we know something. I used to make Mrs. Sincomani, the one I'm married to, very upset when we were first married. I made the claim in my brash youth that I knew something about everything. This bothered her to such extent. It was our first battles. It wasn't the green bag battle, not to that level, but it was a battle that we had often because she just couldn't accept the fact that I knew something about everything. I was a smart aleck. That was properly filtered for this, right? Yeah. I was a smart aleck and worse. See, in asking the question that she would ask me about something I knew nothing about, she would tell me something about that, and so I'd just repeat back what she said. But the reality was I really didn't know much about anything. And by suggesting that I knew something about everything, it gave me the permission to sit back and relax, in the relaxed comfort that I know something about everything. But the quest for knowledge is what drives us deeper. The idea of knowing who God is because your experience with Him informs you, because your life is lived walking hand in hand, step by step, yoked to Him in mission is the difference. Friends, it's my hope that we go far beyond superficial knowledge. In fact, this world that we live in today, everybody needs to get past this. It's easy to Google, but you can't learn to really know something by Googling any more than my coach of years ago could learn how to ski a Black Diamond Mogul Hill by following me every time. Until you understand the process and the concept and the purpose, it does you no good. Well, I hope you can grab those words. I hope they mean something to you. I want you to remember that there's a difference between knowing God and knowing about God, and it's the first one that we really need to be after. Well, I'm off to the slopes if I can find them. Keep your edges sharp and your tips pointed downhill. Have fun.